Hey everyone, welcome to Mighty Forces. I'm your host, Amanda Hirsch. If you're someone who gives a damn about other people, about the state of the world, then you are in the right place. Welcome. Take a load off, let your hair down, and get ready to go deep. And to get stupid. Because in my experience, the best conversations with the best people share both of these characteristics. Let's start the show. Welcome to the Mighty Forces podcast. If the smile on my face looks a little sappier than usual, it is because I am joined today by my beloved husband, Jordan Hirsch.
Hi, Amanda.
Hi, Jordan. Listener, we are recording this in offices next door to each other. Yes, Jordan is acting as though he is looking longingly at the room next door. And I wanted to have you on, Jordan, because the truth is, as people may have already noticed, we're only 2 episodes in. This will be the 3rd episode. I talk about you a lot. You seem to be an important figure in my life. And I thought that it would be appropriate for people to hear from you and get to know you a little bit, because you are pretty unavoidably going to be a character in this thing.
Oh, well, I hope I can live up to your depiction of me.
I think you will. So for people who don't know, Jordan and I have been together for approximately 1,000 years. We met in utero years before we were born.
We met on the oceans of time when we were various souls in different vessels.
That's correct.
And we've been just weaving in and out.
Weaving. Yeah.
When did we meet? 1994? 2, 3, 4?
4.
Well, we didn't meet in 94.
No, we met. That's true.
We'll have to edit this part out because you were wrong on tape. And
you know what? I'm okay with that. With that. Yeah.
Very bold of you.
Okay. Guys, listeners, I have an important announcement. Sometimes I'm wrong. It's pretty wild, but yes, we met. Well, we were in drama club together in high school at Richard Montgomery High School in Rockville, Maryland. Go Rockets.
Go Rockets.
And I had a huge crush on Jordan for a really long time. But I was also sort of terrified of interacting with boys. So I just thought he was super cute and super hot. And now I've embarrassed him, which is awesome. And but I did nothing about it. My like big move was to journal about him and tell my friends that I thought he was hot. And Jordan, meanwhile, was making his way through many of the other women in the student body.
Okay. All right. Not how it was. I had a few girlfriends. I had my heart broken a few times.
You had some special lady friends.
I had some special lady friends. I did not know at the time that, I didn't really have maybe the most mature sense of like what a relationship looked like in that way.
Probably at age 16?
15 or 16, yeah, exactly.
So
but that didn't stop me. I was determined to learn by doing, and so I did.
Yeah. Experiential learning.
I knew if a girl wanted to date me, then who was I to say no?
Yeah. And say, yes, you did. And so so then we were sort of in each other's orbit, but Jordan didn't really know who I was. And then we really met in the fall of 93 doing a production of Midsummer Night's Dream. Jordan was Oberon, I was Puck. As I always like to tell people, we had a friend who had already graduated and gone to college, and she ended up watching a videotape, a VHS tape of the production. And her comment was, I didn't realize that there was supposed to be so much sexual chemistry between Oberon and Puck.
Whoops.
What do you remember? It's been a million years since I've asked you this. What, if anything, do you remember about like me at that time?
You?
Yeah.
I remember that you were very beautiful.
Okay.
I remember that you seemed very popular. You had a lot of friends, and you hung out with a crowd that I didn't hang out with. I was hanging out more with like the goth kids and the metal kids and those types, many of whom became future lawyers for some reason. And I knew you hung out more with like I think I just sort of vaguely dubbed them, the popular crowd in my mind, because I don't know that I really knew what that term meant. It just meant like they seemed to know more people than I knew. I remember thinking you were a little aloof at the time. And I know you have a different view on that from some discussions we've had, but also that you were you were bubbly like champagne. You seemed to just carry this kind of cloud of positivity with you wherever you went. I didn't learn until later that you were carrying, deep-seated anxiety and depression, whatever else you had going on.
I also didn't learn that till much later. Yeah.
But you presented as a very positive, cheerful, smart person who seemed to have it together.
Well, it's interesting because I think, that positivity is very authentic and is hand in hand with deep-seated anxiety and depression. Both things are true. Yes. And I think you've sort of loosely touched on, or you're sort of adjacent to touching on something that plagued me through a lot of my life, which is that a lot of people, made assumptions about me because I was bubbly, because I had that effervescent kind of quality. They thought it meant I lacked depth, that I didn't get it, that, I had, I don't know, life was easy or whatever. They didn't see the more artistic Amanda that is very important to me. And so it's interesting because I think your friends were always super nice to me. Nobody was ever, but once we got together, your friends who, as you've described, were goth, into metal, like the quote unquote alternative crowd, which I was very much not. It would be interesting to ask some of those folks, but I feel like their reaction to me was a little bit like, oh, there's more here than we would have assumed. You know?
I think people sometimes have that reaction to me also.
That's maybe something that until this moment we never realized we have in common.
Yeah. Yes. Especially at that age, because you tend to present yourself at that age as a collection of the things that you like and are into. Right? I mean, one of the first things I learned about you was that you were into beat poetry, whatever the hell that meant. So, of course, I went home and was like, I better figure out what beat poetry is because I'm starting to get into this girl.
Well, listener, you should know that all these years of love and subsequently marriage and co-parenthood, being in business together, all of that almost didn't happen because one day I was driving Jordan home from rehearsal and he mentioned The Simpsons. And I said I wasn't really into The Simpsons.
And I could feel the temperature drop in the car. And suddenly all my systems just like something went dead inside me. And I was like, oh, okay. This budding romance has died before it bloomed. And that's okay. I'll just on to the next one, I guess.
There's plenty of others waiting in the wings.
Yeah, it's too bad, but there's really no point in getting to know this person any further. Yeah, and that's okay. I had to choose between The Simpsons and you, and in that instant, of course, I chose The Simpsons, and I don't regret that choice because in the end, I got to have both.
Yes, I don't know how we moved past that, but we did.
Yeah, at one point, I think I invited you to like come watch The Simpsons with me, and you probably said no, and I was like, all right.
No.
Or maybe you said yes?
I don't know. But I do remember that at some point, fast forward, I was curating an art show for my art class. And the opening was on like Thursday night, I guess. And you later told me that for the first time ever, you missed The Simpsons because you came to my art show.
I did. That's when I knew.
Aww.
This thing is real.
You like me more than Homer.
Oof. At the time, man, that was a tough call.
I don't know. In retrospect, that's deeply insulting. No. The Simpsons fandom, I totally get. But thinking of it in terms of choosing, a choice between Homer Simpson.
Well, sure.
And
I'd rather hang out with you.
Thank you.
But again, at that point in time, and probably for a long time after, I thought my identity was in large part the things that I enjoyed. The fandoms I was a part of, the music I liked. It was a filtering criteria for friendships, for meeting people, for activities, for how I expressed myself in the world. It more often than not was through a band T-shirt or a quote I'd written on my shoe or something. Then here's what I actually have to say about this topic because I didn't think I had anything to say.
So okay, so a few years later now, do you still think that you filter friendships in that way? Like as you think about some of your newer friendships?
I don't know if I filtered them in that way. I was talking the other day. I think our daughter was asking me
Oh, yes, her.
if I have, non-horror movie friends. I was like, of course I do. And then I really struggled to come up with one, or maybe it was you and me, we were having this conversation. And I came up with a couple names in the end. I wouldn't say that I filter friends based on horror movies nowadays. I would say more that I cultivate friendships around a shared interest.
So it's the same though. Is like,
Well, no, filtering is like, I'm not going to bother with you if you're not into The Simpsons. Cultivating is like, I am going to bother with you because you're into The Simpsons.
okay, it's a different mindset, but the result is similar. It's a different mindset, but the result is similar in that you're spending time with people who tend to share pop cultural preferences.
Yes. And in large part, it's also, I don't know if it's because of this or if it's just enabled this, but the fact that kind of my default social plan hasn't changed much since I was about 15, which is, hey, why don't you come over and we'll watch a horror movie in my basement and eat candy? That was my idea of a good time back then. That is my idea of a good time today. When I retire, if I retire one day, that is my idea of how I will be spending my days.
Yeah. I mean, people should know, like, on your birthday, that's your idea of, like, just be left alone, lovingly left alone to watch horror movies. And if there could be a steak and maybe a glass of single malt scotch, then...
Oh, sounds delightful. Yeah, when are we doing this? Sounds great.
You gotta wait till February, unfortunately.
Oh,
I'm
right.
sorry.
Sorry.
Go.
And yet you and I have very little in common in terms of our cultural crossover.
Oh, yeah.
And we made it work.
We did. We continue to. Yeah, no, I know. And it's funny because I think you said something, 5 minutes back about how at the age that we met, we were very much filtering people based on shared interests or however you put it. And actually, I don't think that was ever true for me the way it was for you. And it's been really interesting to see that become such a big part of, so our daughter's name is Allie, such a big part of Allie's identity is her fandoms, right? Like the easiest way for her to make a friend, if somebody else likes Gravity Falls, like watch out, And sometimes we've seen it can be, she's a little bit at sea if she's talking to someone and they don't have those shared references. And it's just been really interesting to see that and then think back about, how we almost didn't make it because I didn't watch The Simpsons. I think you and your friends also had like a litmus test around the movie The Player.
Yeah, for a little while, for some reason, we decided that like that was like an important movie for a date to see, potential girlfriend. It was me and my friend John, we came up with this. I don't know why. Why that movie?
I don't know, but it's a great movie. Robert Altman, for people who haven't seen it. I mean, I haven't seen it in a million years, but I remember it thinking it was great. But it is funny that like these two suburban kids in Rockville, Maryland were like, well, if she doesn't understand this scathing satire of Hollywood.
Yeah. Insider Hollywood, movie, which by the way, years later, my dad pointed out is like, yeah, it's satirizing Hollywood, but it's also full of Hollywood, famous cameos that you're supposed to get to be in on the joke. So like, fuck that movie. I'm like, oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah. So maybe I should call some girls and be like, I'm so sorry.
That's right. You might want to reopen some channels.
Yeah, maybe it's not too late now that I've reevaluated my stance a little bit.
I think so. I'm glad that we did this episode.
I needed something. I needed some sort of filtering criteria because I don't know that I had developed the muscles yet to just filter people based on like, do I connect with this person and what do I think about them? Maybe except for you.
I broke through.
You did.
My little champagne bubbles eroded the hard walls of something or other. So you undeniably know me far better than anyone else on Earth.
I know you pretty well.
You know me very well. And so as, early in the podcast journey, I think, whoever's listening, most folks probably are people who know me. But for anyone who's listening who is just getting to know me through the podcast, and even for people who do know me, who, know me in a certain context, I'm curious, like, what is something that you think people don't know about me?
First of all, if there's people out there who are just getting to know you, congratulations, you're in for a treat. Second,
Okay.
something most people probably don't know about you is that very often you can be found in your pajamas by, let's call it 4 p.m.
Not four. Not
Not 4? Okay, so now this is on the record. So just know that the next time it happens, I will be playing this back for you.
okay. Okay.
I've seen it. I've seen it at 4. I've seen it at 5. I've seen it at 6.
I mean, once you get to 6, I'm like, yeah, no, that's true.
Sure, yeah. I would say I've seen it at 11, but you're rarely awake at that hour, so I don't
No.
think that counts.
No, I don't usually see 11 p.m.
People who only know you, I don't know. Do most people who know you through work know how funny you are?
Aw.
Because you are very, very funny, and sometimes you're funny in a way that I don't expect. We have very different senses of humor, and occasionally you'll play over in my pool, and you'll say something that is so just like biting and sharp, and it just cracks me up to no end to see you using that kind of humor. So I love that.
Aw.
And then finally, I would say I wonder if most people know that you grew up absolutely obsessed with soap operas.
Oh.
You don't necessarily seem the type. You don't watch reality shows today, sort of the modern soap opera.
Yeah.
What was the one you had all the posters for on your wall?
Santa Barbara.
I've never even heard of that show.
Now, I wouldn't say I grew up, like, I would say that my middle school existence had a lot to do with Santa Barbara.
Okay.
I think by the time I got to high school, I'll have to ask my parents what they recall, but I think it was really, I made some friends that were into soaps in middle school, and so I checked them out and became obsessed. But I think that it was a short-lived, intense but short-lived
The
obsession.
intensity, I think. That was a surprise to me when I learned about like that room in the basement that was just plastered with pictures from this show I'd never even heard of.
Yes.
That was interesting.
We had, in my house growing up, when you came in from the garage, there was this sort of, I don't know, just room that we didn't really do much with, this little partially finished room. And then there was a hallway to the rest of the basement, I guess. But it wasn't like finished like that. And I guess sort of just like a little storage space. And at some point, my parents, this was super cool of them, they were like, you can do what you want with this space. And so God bless them. I painted the walls bright yellow and then covered the walls with directly with black paint. I wrote like the names of what the kids today would call my favorite ships, like Eden and Cruz Forever with like a heart around it. And then I ripped out pages from soap opera magazines. A huge shout out to my beloved Aunt Judy, who got me a subscription to Soap Opera Digest one year for Christmas. I wanted it so much, and my mom was like, I just can't bring myself. And my aunt was like, I will. Like, I don't care. She's also the one who bought me like My Little Ponies. Whenever my mom was like, I can't, my aunt was like, I will. And so pictures from those magazines, primarily of Eden and Cruz. I don't know what it was, but those two cast quite the spell over me. And then there was another couple, Mason and something. I can't even think of what the woman's name was, but they were a distant second. But yeah, no, I mean, I came home every day after school. I had taped the soap opera. I watched it. I mean,
in my life, the person who watched soap operas was my mom. So I would come home from school and occasionally she would be there watching her soaps, or she'd like taped it earlier in the day and was catching up. And, she would always be like, well, I don't really watch, but I'm like keeping up with one plot line or whatever. Right? So, okay.
That looks a lot like watching.
But for a brief period, I think I kind of was sort of familiar with some of the plot lines on General Hospital and One Life to Live. Were those names right? Yeah. Okay.
Were and probably still are.
Yeah, I'd never heard of Santa Barbara, though. I knew people were often in comas. There were a lot of like long-lost identical twins. People would die and come back.
As you're bringing this up, which is something I don't spend a lot of time thinking about and haven't thought about in a while, all I can say in terms of connective tissue between that expression of Amanda and today is obsession with story. I love to be immersed in a story. Like, right? Like you and I are rewatching The Wire. In a way, it's all I can think about. Like, in a way, my dream would be if we could just wipe the calendar and just watch like 5-6 episodes a day.
They invented binging for you.
Yeah. And I'm that way with novels, with books, too. I mean, you know how quickly I read. I inhale books. And I just love to be transported. I just love to be immersed and swept up. in a story. And then, of course, my company is a storytelling company. So, but why those stories? I mean, some people were obsessed with SNL or, I did watch a lot of sitcoms too. My family and I, that was our like after dinner activity. It was like, oh, it's Murphy Brown, it's Family Ties and Cosby Show.
Yeah, Cosby Show is the only one that my dad would deign to watch. Otherwise, he was like a strictly PBS person.
I don't remember ever watching PBS with my parents. They watch it now, but I mean,
I sat through many a Ken Burns.
Ooh.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That was what passed for fun in my house.
Yeah. Well, and then you would go in the basement and watch like weird movies.
The weirder the better. Whatever I could get my hands on. If the cover art made me squeamish, I was like a magnet. I was drawn to it. I had to see like, what the hell is this thing about? Most of them did not live up to the cover art. But this was, of course, hey kids, pre-internet. So you couldn't just go look it up. Right? You couldn't just go see, what is this movie? You had to hear through the grapevine about something, or again, like you'd see it at the video store, or sometimes we'd go to the other video store who had, they had a different selection. I spent a lot of time roaming the halls of Blockbuster Video back in high school, picking whatever looked just kind of violent and upsetting. Not upsetting to me, but like upsetting to normal people. Couldn't get enough of it. I still can't.
And yet it's funny because my brain wants to go so many different directions right now. But one thing I will say is when we first got together, you were not, your personality was not horror movie fan forward. You were very Simpsons forward. You were very Soundgarden forward, right? I knew you liked David Lynch movies. So I knew you were into like some weird shit, but horror movies, I think you always liked in the background. And I don't know, at some point in our adult lives, they just to the center.
Well, at some point the balance tipped, in part because I started making horror movie friends. Like at my old job, the last time I had a full-time job where I was for almost 10 years, I have friendships. I haven't worked there in 3 years at this point, maybe a little more. And I have friends that I see monthly and talk to on our group Slack thread all the time. And we all bonded together because someone had created a horror movie channel in the company Slack. And we started meeting there and talking about our favorite movies. And building friendships around it really reinforced. Like the dominoes had already fallen, I think, in large part. But that reinforced like, oh, I never have to stop liking these.
Well, and then you also, I feel like the gas station horror show, listeners, Jordan and I both performed improv comedy together and separately for many, many years. We grew up from being drama club kids to then becoming adults, improv nerds, adults who were doing non-theater related things for work, but couldn't keep away and found improv and was the center of our social lives for a decade or so. And so then, but yeah, at some point when we were living in Brooklyn, you had the idea.
So our friend J.W. Crump, well-known improviser in our circle, at least.
Yeah.
He came to me with this idea based on another show that he had seen.
Oh, okay.
And the idea was the show he had seen, I believe they took clips from porno movies, but not the porno scenes, right? So it's like the pizza guy comes to the door, rings the doorbell, someone answers the door in a towel. You show that clip and then you cut there and the improvisers take the stage to finish the scene.
Gotcha.
In gas station horror, we would show, it's the kids packing the car for the weekend at the cabin.
Sure.
And then the improvisers would take the scene. So building a show around that, we started collecting clips. So I really started ramping up my viewing because I had to now be churning out this library of like 1 minute clips from these movies to keep the show going. So it was great to have a reason. I invested in horror t-shirts at that point in a way I hadn't in a while because I would always wear one for the show. But I mean, even back in our DC years, my brother, massive horror movie fan. And I'm the one in my circle who's seen, quote unquote, every movie. He's the one who's actually seen every movie. So anyway, so I'd go over to his place in DC of an evening and we would watch some oh, you got to see this French horror movie about the meaninglessness of life. And also it's like the bloodiest thing you've ever seen. Shout out to Martyrs, by the way, amazing film. And so he was feeding me a steady drip of this stuff. And even in the early days, some of my very, very first experiences with horror movies would be he would be watching something in the basement with his friends, because he's older than me, and I would be crouched at the top of the basement stairs, hoping I opened the door quietly enough that no one noticed, and I would see something that would make me cover my eyes, close the door, and leave. But as repelled, as scary as it was, a part of me was also really attracted to it. Like, well, it's terrifying, but I know I'm going to need more of this soon.
That's so interesting. That's so interesting. It made me think, too, of even just going back to how, like, I don't know, I was never cool. I guess we didn't say that explicitly, but I mean, that's right. It's just so apparent. But, you saw me as like popular. I wasn't in the like alternative crowd. People thought that, I was bubbly and therefore maybe lacked depth. I also was never cool. I didn't know like, or have any interest in the latest bands, this, that, or the other. You're just also making me think that, without your brother, there's a lot of like going back to all these pop culture things that are so important to you.
Oh, yeah.
He's like the source for a lot of that. And it goes back to my theory that I think sometimes only children are at a disadvantage as far as that's concerned, because you don't have like a supplier. You don't, have an older sibling who's hooking you up and telling you.
Foundation for me and fed me, again, a steady drip of, bands, read this Stephen King book, try this movie, etc. I don't know where he found it all. Maybe he's got better skills than I do. I don't think my sister was feeding him that stuff to the same extent. Certainly not on the movie front.
Yeah.
But I definitely benefited from his obsessive tastes.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And now genetically it seeped its way into our daughter. 1000%. So, all right. So this is a podcast for people who give a damn. And you are someone who gives a damn. And I think there's an interesting difference between us that would be interesting to explore, if you will. So I have, as you may know, always been obsessed with the meaning of my work. I've always been obsessed.
The meaning of life, the meaning of work in general, the meaning of education, the meaning of social structures. Yes, you are. Yes. People who feel like you lack depth, it's like saying, that black hole up there, this is pretty deep, I guess, but could go a little deeper.
Well, and interestingly, and if anyone who's read my book knows, because the book screams this message really loudly, like you very much activated that part of me. I believe it's part of me. And yet I believe we come into contact with different people and there's certain alchemy there and it just brings different parts of us alive. And your tendency to question things very much activated the part of me that questions things. But anyway, obsessed with meaning. For people who don't know, I was very unhappy in my early 20s. It really mattered to me that my work mattered to me. And just a retroactive thank you to you, Jordan, for being my even-keeled and patient and accepting and loving partner through all of those seasons. I think you, I don't want to put words in your mouth, so you correct me if I'm wrong, but as much as you care deeply about the state of the world and about other people, I think for a very, very long time, you fundamentally doubted the possibility of meaningful work.
Yeah, work's not supposed to be meaningful. That's why they pay you. Right?
Okay.
That was kind of, I guess, the model. I don't even know. My parents didn't really talk about their work very much. Work was just a thing you did before the time that you had to yourself to do the things you actually cared about. At best, I thought you could build meaning into your work through relationships with your coworkers. And I was always very, very big on that. I have friends to this day. I saw a friend last night that I met in, 2004 or 5, something like that, because we started working together. And to this day, some of my best friends are people that I've worked with. And so that was where I found meaning. The work itself, I was like, well, yeah, that's why they pay you. because you don't like it.
I can't help but through like the 2025 lens, like I feel like we live in a time where there's so much attention being paid to, what it means and looks like and feels like to live in a capitalist society. I'm just so struck by your words in terms of like what they reveal in terms of what you think money means. Like if it almost sounds like you're saying if money's tied to it, it can't be worth anything.
Well, money is what they give you instead of happiness. I think that's how I used to think.
You could have one or the other.
Yeah, you could have one or the other.
One or the other.
All right.
Well, and when I met you, you wanted to be a rock star.
I still do. I don't
He's a
want to
very
put
good singer.
Well, thank you. I don't want to put in any work towards it. I just want to be it.
You've put out several albums in recent years that have taken hours and hours and hours of your life. So I'm not going to allow you to characterize yourself as some sort of lazy wannabe rock star.
That's for fun. Being a rock star implies to me, I think, a life on the road. Like you've got to be out there doing shows. And every time I see a band, I wish it was me up there. And then when I see the band breaking down and putting the stuff into the van, I'm like, oh, thank God that's not me. Looks terrible. So I don't want that lifestyle.
Gotcha.
But I do absolutely adore being on stage, the center of attention, expressing myself through music.
What are some of the other ways? Yeah, what are some of the ways you have done that in your life?
Oh, well, musical improv, probably my favorite way. For years and years in both DC and New York, I was fortunate enough to be in a few different, really, really, what I would think, very, very good musical improv groups. Which just brought out they shaped and polished me as an artist in many ways. Playing with people of a high caliber forced me to be at my best, and being directed by this Travis Plager in particular back in DC, who I believe just retired from the improv life to move on to greener pastures. He pushed us all to be our best and to really learn the craft, not just to get up and sort of try to wing it. And that is what enabled me to then come to New York and do it up here. And those moments when you're just making up a song on stage and everything just clicks into place and you're following the accompanist and they're following you and your cast members are supporting you and you're making up the words and you can already see one line away where the next line is going to end and how the melody is going to go. And okay, I'm going to go up to this note in the end, but these aren't fully conscious thoughts. I mean, that's a high that is difficult to match.
Yeah. I'm finding myself thinking about Jordan was in a 2-person show with our friend Karen Lang for many years, Vox Pop. They played at festivals all over the place. And what was, gosh, I don't know if this will translate in podcast form, but what was that scene where you were Stavros?
Stavros, you kissed Stavros. I think I was like a Greek grocer, and I forget who Karen was, but we built this romance for the ages.
Yes.
In that show.
Oh my God, it was epic.
It was powerful. So I've been fortunate to play with some extremely talented people who helped me.
Some of whom are famous now, actually.
Yeah.
Natasha Rothwell was part of our improv scene back in Washington, D.C. For folks who don't know, she's a actress. She's in White Lotus. Her star is very much on the rise. And honestly, I can hardly think of anyone who deserves it more. She's so talented and worked so hard.
But over the years, Natasha and I made up many a song together on stage.
Yeah.
And I love playing with her.
Yeah. And I was thinking, too, of Jeff Hiller. I don't know I think you were in a couple of shows with him.
Jeff, I've done like 1 or 2 shows with at festivals. Very generous player. Even when he was there as the guest star, just real ability to share the stage and share the focus and still shine.
That's what I've always admired so much about Amy Poehler as an improviser. I think it's really hard to find people who are happy to deliver the funniest line always and be the star. And you can find people who are really supportive players who make other people look good. To find people who, and I feel like there's a metaphor here, for life beyond improv, which you and I often think.
Life beyond
improv. But I think to be able to claim space and be comfortable being the one that is the center of attention, and to also to move fluidly and easefully, graciously between that and being a supporting player is a kind of grace in a human being that
Superpower.
is really beautiful and really remarkable. And I mean, for all the reasons I love Amy Poehler, which I should do an episode where I just pretend to interview Amy Poehler. And people will be like, and that's when Amanda finally lost it. But anyway, that's at the heart of why I love her. But anyway, okay, so musical improv, and then you've made music with people remotely, right? Like you do electronic collaborations.
Yeah. So I've done, for years, I've made songs with my friend John Argentero, who lives in Wisconsin. And we were
the player litmus test.
Yes, exactly. And he and I were in a band, a same room at the same time band, a synchronous band, I guess, way back in high school together. And so I love that to this day, John and I still make music together. I've made music with my friend Connor, who we used to live in Brooklyn together, and now he lives in Arkansas. And my bandmate in the Archivists, this guy, Adam Mitchell, he lives outside St. Louis. And we've actually never played music together in the same room at the same time. I don't think I've ever even actually seen him play the guitar. But we've made 2 albums, an EP, and a couple singles worth of songs together, and we've got another batch that are starting to kind of bubble up right now.
It's amazing. I mean, I think it's important to talk about this because, you know, I think one of the questions that so many people in my community grapple with is the role of creativity in their lives, and when you're a creative person, how best to honor that. And I think when we were younger, there was a tendency toward more black and white thinking and thinking you were either all in or it didn't count kind of thing, you know? And I think so many gray areas have emerged over the years as we've seen different people we know be in relationship with their creativity in different ways. And we've experienced different roles that creativity has played in our own lives, right? Coming more to the forefront, receding a little bit. Is it how you make a living or not? How do you preserve enough of yourself? If it's not how you're earning a living, how do you preserve enough of your energy and life force to still do the work, especially when you're also parenting and doing paid work?
But the trick there is that doing the work gives me energy.
Mm-hmm. Say more about that.
What I need to make music is time and a little bit of focus. But what I've learned now that I'm making it more often is that it's always there. It's a stream that's always running in my mind that I can always dip into. And when I do, I am more energized for the rest of my life than when I don't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I access creativity differently now than I did, maybe 5-6 years ago. When I was doing improv all the time, I was barely making music at home because I was scratching that itch somewhere else. It's now that we've moved up to the middle of nowhere, and I'm not.
He means the Hudson Valley listener. We live in New York's beautiful Hudson Valley.
So up here in the sticks, now that I'm not on an improv stage on a regular basis, I needed something else. I felt almost a physical need to create in a different way. And so leaning into my band and making music at home has been very therapeutic for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know what you mean. It takes something for me, like with my writing, to be present enough and like in the right place energetically that the best stuff flows through me. Takes something of me. And yet, if I go too long without prioritizing that, then I am depleted in a way nothing else will fix. And I start to feel like a caged animal, very cranky. I wanted to say really quickly, and then I want to get back to your career briefly. But I wanted to say, too, in thinking about all the ways other than being a full-blown rock star that you've brought music into your life, because I think this is probably relatable for a lot of people who are listening who maybe are still trying to navigate how do I weave my own creativity into my life and find place for it among paid work, among other responsibilities and relationships. Something else that I think has been a lifeline for you is FAWM, which stands for February Album Writing Month. Do you want to just briefly bring people in on what is that and how has it fed you?
So February Album Writing Month, similar to maybe people have heard of NaNoWriMo, the National Novel Writing Month, which I think is in November's. It started, over a decade ago. It's an online community started by this guy, Burr Settles, who I believe is a Wisconsinite.
That's an amazing name. That's like an iconic name.
Cool. It's an online community that issues an invitation to anyone who wants to accept, which is during the month of February, you are invited to create 14 songs in 28 days. The level of fidelity is not supposed to be terribly high. You get credit if you just write down on the site, hey, I wrote a song and here's the title. You don't have to post a demo. You don't have to post lyrics. You don't have to post anything, but you can. They don't have to be good. The point, in large part, is to write the bad ones so that you can write the good ones. You got to clear out the system, something I didn't know before I started doing it. My aforementioned friend, John, who's had a big impact on my life, he invited me. He finally convinced me to try it one year and to basically convinced me there was nothing to be afraid of. It is an extremely warm, welcoming community, and you are encouraged to say something nice, find something that you like about someone's song, especially if they're a first timer, especially if there's no comments on the song and no one's found it yet. Say something positive, find something you can latch onto. And I love that aspect of it. And in large part, my band that I'm in now exists because of FAWM, because Adam and I started collaborating. I got him eventually to try it. And we started collaborating on a few songs during that. And after we'd done it 2 or 3 times, we had the conversation of like, hey, what if we did this outside of FAWM? What if we just worked on a song for no reason? Which is hard. That's a bigger leap to make for some reason, because there's no, especially for people like me who rely on deadlines and external accountability to get things done, you don't have either of those. So at least having a band partner, we have some accountability built into the process. But like last year, I got my friend Alex to earlier this year, I got Alex to participate in FAWM. And now he started writing more music after, he too was in a band back in high school. And I think maybe had put that on pause for several years and is now kind of having a reawakening in terms of getting in touch with the musical side of his creativity. And it's a beautiful thing to see. So yeah, FAWM.org. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain by just starting. Just write a song.
I love
that. Doesn't
that.
have to be good.
I love that. And it brings me to the thing that I feel like I learned early on when we were in DC, early in our improv years, which is that constraints breed creativity, right? When you put a box around something, if you say to somebody, over the course of the next year, try to write 14 songs, that somehow can become harder than you have 28 days and you're going to make 14 songs and they can suck, but you're going to do that.
Prior to FAWM, I was always going to start writing a song tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was only eventually I realized that during February, snippets of songs would come into my head and I would have to capture them real quick because I couldn't waste an idea. I only had 28 days to get this done. And then I learned snippets of songs are always coming into my head and I can capture any of them anytime I want and start turning them into things.
Yeah.
My last FAWM that I did this last year, so we had just finished recording and I had just finished mastering our album. And the next week, I think, I started doing FAWM. And this year I did what I called my cheater's dozen, which is I pulled most of the songs that I wrote this year were pulled from my song ideas folder. So something where, I had 10 seconds of a melody in this one, or a cool drum beat in this one, or I had like 2 minutes of a song in this one that I was going to finish, tomorrow. And finally found a reason to finish these things. And it was really fun. And now I have a completed thing that I can go back to and actually look at and say like, okay, do I want to turn this into something a little more polished? Which is a big step. It's nice to have.
That's awesome. Okay, so real talk. I'm looking at the clock, and while I could talk to you for another hour,
let's do it.
As charming as we are, I'm sure there's a limit to how much of us at once anyone would like to listen to. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to boldly invite you back. Because there's something I wanted to get into today that we didn't end up getting into, and that's fine. But rather than try to get into it in like 3 minutes, let's just set aside. Well, what it is sort of following up on what I brought up earlier about thinking differently about work, because I think the journey. So the fact that I was obsessed with the meaning of work and so focused on my work being purposeful, and that you were not for such a long time and didn't really think that work could be a source of meaning or fulfillment. Although, as you've said, you really did derive a lot of value, I guess, for lack of a better term, from all the relationships you made at work over the years. But this idea of connecting your insides and like what you uniquely as Jordan Hirsch have to express, share, and offer in this world with what you did for your work, that was not your orientation for a very long time. And then you've been on a real journey in the past like 3 to 5 years, and you're in a very different place professionally today than you were. And I think it's a really interesting story about how you navigated that. And I'm curious too, to just talk to you about like how you think about all this now. But that's going to have to just serve as a mouth-watering teaser for the listener, because you guys are just going to have to look forward to Jordan's return visit.
Tune into part 2 if you want to know the meaning of life.
Yeah. I mean, we know it, to be clear, and we are withholding it.
You can't give it all away at once.
No, that would just be bad media strategy. You know, you don't, if we give the meaning of life away here in episode 3, that's it.
Right.
My podcast is done. It's done. I will ask you, though, in closing, what I ask everybody, which I didn't know I was going to ask everybody until I asked it in the first episode. And then I was like, well, now I'm going to keep asking it. And it's this. To the people who are listening, who are people who, like us, give a damn, who care about other people, about the state of the world, right? That's just in their fundamental wiring. If you look into your heart and ask yourself, what is there for me to say to these folks? And I want to caveat this, as I do with everyone. I'm not asking you to suddenly say like a TED Talk or be the wisest guru in all the land, but just a very human and real level. When you think about being able to share something, it could be a question, it could be an insight, it could be a story, it could be anything. What's there for you to share in this moment with other people who give a damn?
Quite possibly the most powerful thing you can do in any moment is to name what's true. And once you do that, you can do anything. When you don't do that, you are spending so much mental energy and emotional energy and energetic energy fighting what's true and wishing it were something else.
God damn it, Jordan. That's very wise.
Sorry.
So fucking wise.
Well, you told me not to be a guru. I'm sorry, I won't do it again.
This guy over here.
Go watch Street Trash. It is 1987. It's one of the, I think it's 87. It's one of the best, worst, low-budget horror movies that I've ever seen in my life. It will change you as a person. Every friend I've ever shown it to has been sorry that they had that experience, and I want that for you, the listener.
All right. Well, Jordan, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I think very highly of you.
Hey, same.
Yes. What is it they say in Parks and Rec? A work proximity acquaintance?
Yeah, something like that. You're my favorite work proximity acquantance.
Right back at
and
you,
also,
baby.
off the record, what are you doing after? You want to hang out?
Call me? Yeah? Okay.
Hey! That was me calling you. It's a little inside the house humor.
Yep.
Well, anyway, thanks, Amanda.
Yeah. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks so much for listening. If you loved this episode, please consider sharing it with someone who might need it. And please take a few minutes and leave a review. That really helps the show find its people. Mighty Forces is produced by Amanda Hirsch and Haley Hatcher. The music of Mighty Forces was written and performed by Jordan Hirsch, aka my wonderful husband. Till next time, remember, you are a mighty force, and we're mightier together.